Caught my wife texting her ex at our reunion. So I got revenge. The smell of cologne and stale air conditioning filled the banquet hall as I stood by the drink table, looking around at faces I barely recognized anymore. My name is Matt, 35 years old, a project manager at a tech company, and tonight was our 15-year high school reunion. I hadn't planned on attending, but Emma, my wife of 6 years, had insisted. It'll be fun, she'd said. We'll get to see everyone, catch up, relive the glory days. But as we stepped into the room, I felt more anxious than nostalgic. Emma, 33, works as a marketing executive, always the social butterfly, had a wide smile plastered on her face as she chatted up old classmates. She wore this stunning red dress, hugging every curve, and for a moment, I felt proud, like I had won the high school lottery by marrying the prettiest girl in class. But something felt off tonight. It started small, just a glance here, a weird vibe there. Emma's phone had been buzzing non-stop since we walked in. Every few minutes, she'd pull it out, glance at the screen, type furiously, then slip it back into her purse. I didn't want to pry after all, we trusted each other, right? But when she excused herself to the restroom for the third time in less than an hour, I couldn't shake the unease. My gut churned like it knew something I didn't. Was I being paranoid? I needed a distraction, something to pull me out of my own head. I casually wandered over to the bar, ordered a whiskey neat, and took a deep breath. That's when Jake, my old buddy from history class, slid next to me, looking like he had just come out of a bad sitcom. He was now 36, a dentist, and was wearing a too-tight suit that screamed midlife crisis. "What's up, man? You seem distracted," Jake said, handing me another drink before I could even ask for it. I shrugged, trying to play it off. "You know, just people watching. Haven't seen some of these guys in years." Jake raised an eyebrow and grinned. "Yeah, well, if I were you, I'd be keeping an eye on Emma. Looks like she's got someone keeping her busy." He nodded toward the back of the room, where Emma was laughing way too hard at something on her phone. The knot in my stomach tightened. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, forcing a laugh, but my voice betrayed me. I felt the tremor of doubt. Jake smirked. "Look, man, don't shoot the messenger, but word is she's been texting Ryan all night." I froze. Ryan, as in Ryan Dalton, Emma's high school boyfriend. The guy she dated for 3 years before dumping him right before senior prom to go out with someone else, me. They hadn't spoken since, as far as I knew, but that didn't explain why her phone buzzed so much tonight or the secrecy behind her bathroom trips. "I think you're imagining things," I muttered, though the pit in my stomach disagreed. My palms started to sweat. Emma wouldn't. I mean, it's just a high school reunion. It's supposed to be a joke, right? Jake took a long sip of his beer and shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe she's looking to reconnect with an old flame." He raised his eyebrows suggestively before patting me on the back. "Just keep your eyes open, man." I couldn't let it go. The curiosity was burning me from the inside out. So when Emma left her phone unattended on the table while talking to a group of old friends, I couldn't resist. Heart pounding, I reached for it. I knew it was wrong. Snooping on your wife's phone was a line I never thought I'd cross, but my mind was racing. The screen lit up as I held it, and there it was. Ryan Dalton. The name flashed at me like a neon sign. The texts were short, cryptic, but the tone was unmistakable, flirty. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Hope you're still as fun as I remember." I gripped the phone tighter, my vision blurring as rage and hurt flooded through me. Emma returned before I could process the texts, snatching the phone from my hands with a look that could kill. Her smile was gone. Her face flushed. She knew I saw everything. "What the hell, Matt? Are you seriously going through my phone?" she snapped, voice low, but sharp enough to draw blood. My fists clenched. "I don't know, Emma. Should I be worried about what's on it?" She narrowed her eyes, not denying it, not apologizing, just glaring. "It's just Ryan. We were catching up. It's harmless." "Harmless?" I spat. My voice was a little too loud, causing a few heads to turn. "You've been texting your ex all night. You're flirting with him." Her expression shifted from defensive to guilty, but only for a second. Then she doubled down. "It's just talking. We were friends before, and I don't see why you're making this a big deal. You're being paranoid." I laughed bitterly. "Texting him about how much fun you two used to have is just talking? Is that what we're calling it now?" Emma folded her arms, tilting her head as if I was being dramatic. "You're overreacting. I haven't seen him in years. It's nothing." The urge to yell, to cause a scene right there in the middle of the reunion was overwhelming, but I bit it back. Instead, I lowered my voice, the venom seeping through every word. "If it's nothing, then why didn't you tell me? Why the secrecy?" she stammered, her confidence crumbling. I didn't think it was a big deal. I shook my head, disgusted. Yeah, well, maybe I should find out for myself just how big of a deal it is. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to just sit back and let this happen. If she wanted to play games, I could play too. The idea hit me like a lightning bolt, a flash of recklessness that felt so damn right. An old flame of my own came to mind. Stacey Bennett, now 34, a real estate agent, and back in high school, she was the one who got away. We'd never officially dated, but there was always something between us, something unfinished. She was here tonight, and from the look she gave me earlier, I knew the spark hadn't faded. If Emma wanted to flirt with her ex, I'd give her a taste of her own medicine. But I wasn't just going to flirt. Oh no, I was going to make her watch me do exactly what she thought she could get away with. This night was about to take a turn. I just didn't realize how much it would spiral out of control. The air in the room felt heavier after that confrontation with Emma, like the tension between us had electrified the whole reunion. I could feel eyes on me, whispers circulating in the crowd. We were supposed to be the perfect couple to these people, high school sweethearts who had made it. Yet here we were, airing our dirty laundry for all to see. But I didn't care. Something in me had snapped when I saw those texts from Ryan. I wasn't going to stand by like a fool. If Emma wanted to toy with my feelings, then I'd make sure she knew exactly how it felt. As I scanned the room, my eyes finally landed on Stacey Bennett. She hadn't changed much from high school. Still tall, still blonde, still with that effortless beauty that made everyone stop and stare. She was leaning against the bar, chatting with a couple of old classmates, laughing at something, looking completely at ease. My heart raced just seeing her again after all these years. We'd never fully explored what could have been back then, and now I had the perfect excuse to rekindle that spark, if only for one night. I took a deep breath, gathering my resolve. This was going to be my revenge, a little harmless flirting, enough to get under Emma's skin and make her see how it felt to be on the receiving end of betrayal. I started walking towards Stacey, every step charged with anticipation. Just as I reached her, she looked up, her eyes locking onto mine, and she smiled. God, that smile. Matt Turner, she said, her voice lilting with surprise. Well, I didn't expect to see you here. How have you been? I leaned casually against the bar, trying to appear as calm and collected as possible, even though my pulse was racing. It's been a while, huh? I said with a grin. You look exactly the same, Stacey. Time's been good to you. Her eyes sparkled, and she laughed. Oh, you're too kind. You don't look too bad yourself. Still with Emma, huh? I saw you too when you walked in. You guys seem like you're doing well. I almost choked on the irony. Yeah, we're doing great, I lied, flashing a fake smile. I could feel Emma's gaze from across the room, watching every move I made. She wasn't as slick as she thought. She had been checking up on me ever since our argument, her eyes darting between her phone and me, like she couldn't decide which distraction was more important. So, I continued, leaning in a little closer to Stacey. I have to ask, how come we never ended up together back in high school? I always wondered what it would have been like, you know? She raised an eyebrow, her smile turning a little more playful. Oh, you're going there, huh? I don't know. I guess we were always just in different circles. Plus, you were with Emma by senior year, weren't you? There it was, Emma again. The mention of her name felt like a dagger, but I played it cool. Yeah, well, things change, I said, my voice a little lower, a little more suggestive. People grow apart. Sometimes you wonder what could have been if you'd made a different choice back then. Stacey's smile widened, and I could tell she was enjoying this game as much as I was. Is that so? She asked, her tone teasing. Are you saying you made the wrong choice, Matt? Before I could answer, I felt a sharp tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Emma standing behind me, her face flushed with a mixture of anger and something else, jealousy, maybe. I had gotten her attention, just as planned. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? She said, her voice strained. I didn't move right away. I wanted to let her stew a little longer. Can it wait? I'm kind of in the middle of a conversation here. Stacey raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. She just sipped her drink and watched the scene unfold with amusement. Emma wasn't amused. No, it can't wait, she snapped, grabbing my arm and pulling me away from the bar, dragging me toward a quiet corner of the room. What the hell do you think you're doing? She hissed, her eyes blazing with fury. Flirting with Stacey Bennett? Really, Matt? Are you trying to make a fool of me? I smirked, the satisfaction of her jealousy washing over me like a wave. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing about Ryan. Why, Emma? Why have you been texting him all night? What are you trying to prove? Her face fell, and for a brief moment, I saw something unexpected, regret. But then it vanished, replaced by defiance. Ryan and I were just catching up, okay? It's not what you think. Is that right? I crossed my arms, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Because from what I saw, it sure looked like you were planning a reunion of your own. She glared at me, her lips pressed into a thin line. You don't understand, Matt. You're blowing this out of proportion. Ryan and we've been texting for a while now, but it's not what you think. I froze. A while now? My heart started pounding, but not from anger this time. This was something deeper. What do you mean by a while now? I asked, my voice suddenly a lot quieter. Emma sighed, rubbing her temples as if the weight of her words was physically painful. It started a few months ago. He reached out on Facebook, just wanting to reconnect. At first, it was innocent, just casual stuff, but then, I don't know, Matt. It got more personal. I didn't tell you because I don't even know why. Maybe I was afraid of how you'd react. I stared at her, my mind spinning. A few months? How could she have kept this from me for so long? And why now? Why bring it all to the surface at this stupid reunion? I can't believe this, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. So what? You've been texting your ex-boyfriend for months, and now you're here flirting with him at our reunion like it's some big joke. What the hell, Emma? She bit her lip, her eyes darting away from mine. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to get this far. And then she stopped. The look in her eyes shifted from guilt to something darker, more frustrated. You want to know the truth, Matt? Fine. I've been unhappy for a while now. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. What? You heard me, she said, her voice trembling. It's not just about Ryan. It's about us. We've been drifting apart for a long time, and I've been feeling neglected, ignored, like you don't even see me anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, what? You decided to start texting your ex-boyfriend instead of talking to me? How is that supposed to fix anything? I don't know, she cried, throwing her hands up in frustration. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, okay? I'm just lost, and I don't know how to fix it. The twist of the knife came harder than I expected. This wasn't just some flirtation or some petty high school crush. This was deeper, something broken in our marriage that I hadn't even seen coming. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. I had been so focused on my revenge plan, so sure that Emma was the one at fault. But now, I didn't know what to think. Was I part of the problem too? Had I been blind to her needs, her feelings? But before I could process it, the heat of the moment took over, and I pushed those thoughts aside. This wasn't the time to feel guilty or introspective. Right now, all I wanted was to show her that two could play this game. Fine, I said, my voice icy. If you feel that way, then maybe I'll just go back to Stacy and pick up where we left off. Maybe that's what I need right now. Emma's eyes widened in shock, a flicker of panic crossing her face. Matt, don't. But I didn't give her a chance to finish. I turned on my heel and stormed back to the bar, where Stacy was still waiting, looking more than happy to continue our little chat. My mind was a whirl of emotions, hurt, anger, confusion, but one thing was clear: I wasn't about to let Emma's confession get in the way of my plan. If she thought she could just drop a bomb like that and walk away unscathed, she had another thing coming. As I approached Stacy, ready to dive headfirst into this ridiculous revenge, a small, nagging voice in the back of my mind whispered, "Is this really what you want?" But I ignored it. The night was far from over. I marched back to Stacy, heart pounding, emotions in chaos, but my resolve hardened. If Emma wanted to talk about feeling ignored, she'd get to see what real rejection felt like tonight. She had been texting Ryan for months, and now she had the nerve to tell me she felt neglected? No, this was about control, about power, and tonight, I was going to take that power back. Stacy greeted me with a smile that bordered on mischievous, and I leaned in, letting my hand brush hers as I slid onto the bar stool next to her. The bartender raised his eyebrows at me, sensing the change in mood. "Another drink?" he asked. "Whiskey, double," I replied, my voice a little too loud, a little too eager. I wanted to numb the pain, drown the confusion, and push forward with my plan. "So, what was that all about?" Stacy asked, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Emma didn't look too happy when she dragged you away." I gave a casual shrug, trying to hide the boiling anger beneath my calm facade. "Oh, just a little misunderstanding," I said, waving it off like it was nothing. "Seems she's not too thrilled with me talking to an old friend. But who cares, right? It's a reunion, we're all supposed to reconnect, aren't we?" Stacy chuckled, clearly enjoying the drama. She leaned closer, her shoulder brushing mine, sending a jolt of adrenaline through me. "Well, I don't mind reconnecting," she said, her voice dropping to a sultry whisper. "Maybe it's fate that brought us back together after all these years." There it was, the perfect opening. I could feel Emma's eyes burning into the back of my head from across the room, her attention fully locked on us. Good. She needed to see this. She needed to understand how it felt to be on the outside, watching her husband move on without her. I downed my whiskey in one gulp, feeling the burn course through me, and gave Stacy my best charming smile. "You know, I've been thinking about you a lot lately," I lied, my voice smooth and confident. "We never really got our chance back in high school, did we?" Stacy's eyes widened, clearly intrigued. "Really? I always thought you and Emma were the golden couple. Everyone thought you two were perfect together." I laughed, a bitter sound that even surprised me. "Yeah, well, not everything's as perfect as it seems. People change. Feelings fade. Sometimes, you start wondering if you made the right choices." Stacy tilted her head, her expression softening into something more serious. "Is everything okay between you two?" I paused for a moment, caught off guard by the genuine concern in her voice, but I quickly shook it off. This wasn't the time to get sentimental. This was about revenge. "Honestly, I'm not sure anymore," I said, letting just enough vulnerability slip through to make the story believable. "Lately, it feels like we're more like roommates than a couple. And seeing you tonight, it's made me realize how much I've missed the excitement, you know." She bit her lip, clearly flattered. I could see the wheels turning in her head, and for a second, I wondered if this was going to be easier than I thought. Flirting with Stacy was just supposed to be part of the plan, but now I could feel the thrill of temptation pulling me in. Maybe this was more than just a game. Before I could take it further, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, expecting Emma, ready to gloat, but instead, I found Ryan standing there, looking between me and Stacy with a smug grin on his face. My blood went cold. What the hell was he doing here? Well, Ryan said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't expect to see you here, Matt. Seems like we've both got a thing for reconnecting with old flames tonight, huh?" I clenched my fists under the bar, my jaw tightening. I had planned to confront Emma about Ryan later, but seeing him here, now, standing in front of me like this, sent my anger skyrocketing. He had the audacity to waltz over here, acting like he hadn't been sneaking around with my wife for months. Stacy glanced between us, clearly sensing the tension, but she stayed silent, probably too invested in the unfolding drama to leave. Ryan leaned against the bar, looking far too comfortable for my liking, his eyes fixed on me like this was some sort of game he was enjoying. "So," he continued, "Emma tells me you two are going through a rough patch. That true?" I felt a surge of fury. Was he really trying to discuss my marriage with me? I wasn't about to let him play innocent. I stood up, the stool scraping loudly against the floor, and squared up to him, our faces just inches apart. "You've got a lot of nerve showing up here," I growled, my voice low enough that only he could hear. "Texting my wife, sneaking around behind my back, and now what? You're trying to play the concerned friend?" Ryan didn't flinch. In fact, he smirked. "Texting? Come on, Matt. It's not that serious. We're just old friends catching up. You don't need to make a scene." "Not that serious?" I hissed, barely able to contain my anger. "You've been texting her for months. Don't think I don't know what's going on. You think I'm stupid?" Ryan held up his hands in mock surrender. "Whoa, man, calm down. You're making this into something it's not." Before I could respond, Stacy stood up, clearly uncomfortable with where this was going. Maybe I should go," she muttered, looking between us nervously. I didn't mean to get in the middle of anything. But before she could leave, Emma suddenly appeared beside Ryan, her face pale but determined. "Matt, stop," she said, her voice strained. "This isn't what you think." I turned to her, incredulous. "Oh, it's not? Because it sure looks like you've been planning something with him this whole time." Emma glanced at Ryan, who gave her a small nod, as if they'd rehearsed this moment. And then, to my complete shock, Emma said, "I asked him to come here. I wanted to talk to you both together." My mind raced. "What the hell are you talking about?" Emma took a deep breath, her voice shaky. "I've been texting Ryan, yes, but it's not what you think, Matt. I reached out to him because I needed advice about us." My heart pounded in my chest, confusion swirling with anger. "Advice? From him?" Ryan sighed, crossing his arms. "Look, man, I don't know how to say this, but Emma and we've stayed friends over the years. Strictly friends. She's been struggling with your relationship, and she needed someone to talk to. That's all this is." I stared at them both, disbelief washing over me. My plan to make Emma jealous was crumbling in front of me, but worse than that, I was starting to doubt everything. Were they telling the truth? Had I jumped to conclusions? But why wouldn't she tell me any of this before? I looked back at Emma, who was watching me with tears brimming in her eyes. Why didn't you come to me, Emma? I asked, my voice quieter now, the anger fading into something else. Why go to Ryan? Why not talk to your husband? She wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. Because I didn't know how, Matt. I felt like you were pulling away, like we were losing each other, and I didn't know how to fix it. Ryan was just someone to vent to. I wasn't trying to betray you. I stood there, speechless, my plan for revenge suddenly feeling so small, so stupid. Was this all just a misunderstanding? Had I overreacted? But before I could even process what was happening, Ryan leaned in and whispered, "You don't have to believe us, but it's the truth." My blood was still boiling, but now it wasn't just with anger. It was with shame, regret, and the awful realization that I might have been wrong. My plan had backfired, and now I was standing here, caught between my wounded pride and the reality that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't what I thought it was. And yet, there was still a voice in the back of my mind, gnawing at me. What if she's lying? The night was spinning out of control, and the worst part was, I didn't know who to trust anymore, her, him, or myself. I stood there, my thoughts spiraling as Emma and Ryan stared at me. Everything they said sounded so calculated, so perfect, but there was something off. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were trying to manipulate me. The whole situation felt orchestrated, Emma texting Ryan for advice, and Ryan showing up to play the concerned friend. My plan for revenge wasn't going to be discarded just because they were spinning some new story. No, if they thought I was going to back down, they were wrong. I had come too far. I needed to finish this. I turned back to Stacy, who was lingering by the bar, her wide eyes showing she was still caught in the tension. She clearly hadn't left yet because she was curious about the outcome, and, well, maybe a little because of me. I gave her a smile that was both apologetic and suggestive, a signal to keep playing along. "Stacy, I'm sorry you got dragged into this mess," I said, loud enough for Emma and Ryan to hear. "You know, this whole night's made me realize how much I've missed out on. How much I've ignored the better things in life." I saw Emma's eyes narrow. The jealousy was beginning to simmer, and that was exactly what I wanted. I slid closer to Stacy, my hand grazing her arm as I looked deeply into her eyes. "Maybe we should get out of here and go somewhere quieter," I added, my voice lower, more intimate. Stacy blinked, clearly taken aback but intrigued. Are you sure? I mean, isn't this a little?" Emma stepped forward, her face reddening. "Matt, what the hell are you doing?" she snapped. "Are you seriously going to walk out with her right in front of me?" I turned to her with a shrug. "Why not? You've been texting Ryan for months, going behind my back. You're acting like you're so innocent, but we both know the truth, don't we? You've been keeping your options open, Emma, so maybe it's time I do the same." Ryan tried to intervene, raising his hands. "Matt, man, this isn't helping anything. Let's just talk this out." But I was done talking. I was done playing the confused, emotional husband. The rage that had been bubbling inside me all night had finally found an outlet. I wasn't going to back down now. This wasn't just about jealousy anymore, this was about making her feel exactly what I'd felt. "No, Ryan," I said, my tone icy. "I've done enough talking. Now it's time for action." I grabbed Stacy's hand and started to walk toward the exit, my heart pounding. I didn't even know if Stacy would actually leave with me, but it didn't matter. The image of me walking away with another woman was all I needed to hammer the point home. Emma needed to feel that sting, that realization that she wasn't in control of everything. Behind me, I heard Emma shout, "Matt, stop." I paused, turning back to look at her. Her face was a mix of anger, panic, and hurt. "Good. Let her feel it." "You're really going to do this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You're really going to walk out of here with her? After everything we've been through?" The vulnerability in her voice caught me off guard for a split second, but I forced myself to stay focused. This was the moment of power, the moment when I took back control of the situation. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't just the passive husband she thought I was. I smiled coldly. "Why not? It's just a little harmless fun, right? Isn't that what you've been telling yourself every time you texted him?" That hit home. I could see her flinch, her face paling as my words sank in. But I wasn't done yet. "I've given you everything, Emma. Years of my life, trust, love, and this is how you repay me? By running to Ryan for advice? By texting him about our marriage? You couldn't come to me, but you could go to him." Emma blinked back tears, but I wasn't about to stop. She needed to hear this. Well, now you get to see how it feels. Let's see how you like it when I start exploring my options. I tightened my grip on Stacy's hand, who was still standing there, awkwardly caught in the middle of the drama. Honestly, I felt a little guilty dragging her into this, but it was too late now. She was part of the show. But before I could take another step, Emma suddenly burst out, "Fine, go ahead, leave with her, but don't think I haven't noticed how you've been acting all night either." I froze, turning back to face her fully. "What's that supposed to mean?" Emma's voice was shaking with emotion now, her hands trembling at her sides. "You think I'm the only one who's been distant? You think you're some victim here? You've been pulling away for months, Matt. You've been acting cold, distracted, like you're somewhere else every time we talk. And you know what? I didn't know how to fix it. So yeah, I reached out to Ryan for advice. I didn't know what else to do." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind was racing. Was she turning this around on me, trying to make me the bad guy? But before I could respond, Emma dropped the bombshell. "I didn't want to say this, but screw it. If you want the truth, here it is," she said, her voice now cracking. Ryan's gay." The room seemed to go silent. Even Stacy let out a soft gasp. I stared at Emma, my brain struggling to process what she had just said. "What?" Emma wiped her eyes, her voice now calmer but filled with frustration. "Ryan's gay, Matt. He's been out 4 years. He's not interested in me, and he never was. I went to him because he's a friend, someone who could give me a perspective I couldn't get from you. But nothing ever happened between us. I didn't cheat. I never even thought about it." I stood there, my mind reeling. All the anger, all the jealousy, everything I'd been feeling for months, it crumbled in an instant. Ryan was gay? This whole time, I built up this narrative in my head, convinced myself that Emma was having some affair with him, but she wasn't. She never was. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been wrong, completely, utterly wrong. Stacy, still holding my hand, awkwardly cleared her throat and muttered, maybe I should really go this time." I let her hand go, not even looking at her as she slipped away into the crowd. My eyes were locked on Emma, who stood there with tears streaming down her face, her body shaking as the emotional toll of the night finally hit her. For the first time all night, I felt like I was seeing her clearly, not as the villain I had made her out to be, but as the woman I had promised to love and protect, and I had failed her. The silence between us hung like a weight in the air, so thick you could practically feel it. As I stood there, staring at Emma's tear-streaked face, everything came crashing down, my misguided jealousy, the coldness I had built up over the months, and the realization that I had just nearly destroyed my marriage over a lie I told myself. Ryan was gay. I had spent weeks, maybe months, convinced that Emma was secretly involved with him. And why? Because I couldn't face my own problems. Because I couldn't confront the distance that had crept into our relationship. Emma wiped her cheeks, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I was never trying to replace you, Matt. I was trying to save us. But I didn't know how to reach you anymore. Every time I tried to talk, you were somewhere else. And yeah, I shouldn't have gone to Ryan without telling you, but I felt like you wouldn't listen. I was wrong, but so were you." Her words cut through me. It was true. I had been distant, buried in my own frustrations and insecurities. I hadn't even realized how cold I'd become, how hard I'd pushed her away. I had been so quick to place the blame on her that I'd ignored my own role in the crumbling foundation of our marriage. My voice was hoarse when I finally spoke. "I'm sorry, Emma. I didn't know what to think. I saw those texts, and my mind just went to the worst possible place." She nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, and maybe I should have been more open with you, but I wasn't cheating. I've never cheated on you, Matt. You have to believe that." And in that moment, I did. I believed her completely. The rage, the jealousy, all of it drained out of me as if a dam had broken. All that was left was guilt. Guilt for letting things get this bad, guilt for how I had acted tonight, and guilt for dragging Stacy into this mess to make Emma jealous. I felt like a fool. Emma stepped closer, her eyes searching mine for any sign of the man she once loved. "Matt, do you even still want this? Do you still want us?" Her words struck deep. I knew that this was the moment of truth, the question that would determine everything. Did I still want us? Did I want to fight for this marriage, even after everything that had happened? I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman standing in front of me wasn't just my wife, she was someone I had shared my life with, built memories with, weathered storms with. And as angry as I had been, as hurt as I felt, there was still love there. Beneath all the resentment and confusion, I still cared about her. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was worth saving. I do want us, I said quietly, my voice steady for the first time all night. But we need to fix this. We can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. Emma nodded, her lips trembling as she fought back more tears. I want that too. I want us to be okay again. I took a deep breath, the weight of the night beginning to lift, just a little. We'll need to talk, really talk. No more assumptions, no more shutting each other out. If we're going to get through this, we need to be honest with each other. I can do that, she whispered, her hand reaching for mine. I hesitated for a second, then took it, feeling a strange sense of relief at the contact. It wasn't a solution, but it was a start. As we stood there, holding hands, the chaos of the reunion around us seemed to fade into the background. We were no longer part of that world for the moment. It was just the two of us, standing on the edge of something fragile but still salvageable. But even as we stood in that fragile truce, I knew there was one more thing I needed to address. Emma, I began, glancing toward the exit where Stacy had disappeared. About Stacy. Emma gave me a soft, sad smile. It's okay. I know you weren't actually going to leave with her. You were just trying to make me jealous. I blinked in surprise. You knew? She let out a quiet, almost bitter laugh. Of course I knew. I saw the way you were acting all night. You were trying too hard, Matt. And besides, you've never been a very good liar. I winced, realizing how transparent my plan had been. I'm sorry for that too. It was stupid. I was hurt and I wanted to hurt you back. Emma's smile faded, her eyes serious. We can't keep hurting each other. If we're going to move forward, we have to stop playing games. We have to be better. I nodded, knowing she was right. The flirting, the jealousy, the assumptions, they all needed to stop. We couldn't rebuild anything on a foundation of bitterness and revenge. For a few moments, we stood there in silence, both of us trying to process the rollercoaster of emotions we'd been through. It felt like we had both been through a war, battered and bruised but still standing. Finally, Emma sighed and looked around the crowded room. Maybe we should leave, she suggested. We've had enough drama for one night. I agreed, grateful for the chance to escape the memories of what had just unfolded. We walked out of the reunion together, side by side, but the weight of what had happened still clung to us. There was no quick fix for what we had gone through, no magic solution that would make everything better overnight. But we had taken a step, a small one, maybe, but a step nonetheless. As we reached the parking lot, I turned to her, my voice softer now. Do you think we can really fix this? Emma looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. I don't know, she admitted, but I think it's worth trying. Don't you? I squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of her words. Yeah, I do. We got into the car and drove home in silence, the tension between us slowly dissolving into something quieter, more reflective. The reunion, the flirting, the jealousy, it all felt like a blur now, a whirlwind of bad decisions and misunderstood intentions. But as we pulled into the driveway and sat in the quiet of the car, I knew we had reached a turning point. We weren't perfect, and we weren't magically healed. But for the first time in a long time, we were finally on the same page. We had a long road ahead of us, and it wouldn't be easy, but we were willing to try, and for now, that was enough.